What's the big idea?
There we
Shit. I mean,
and we're back. It's
Yes.
episode number 37. 37 today. I'm here with once again the lovely and talented
oh, there's the introduction.
Eric Jansen, right? Eric, you had a good week, good life.
Yeah, I was sick again.
You're sick again.
It was annoying.
Yeah.
Very annoying.
Working in a hospital environment.
That's true. It was, yeah.
Yep.
Probably has something to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Eric walks around hospitals pretending he's a doctor,
Yeah.
trying to examine people. So
Rectally.
it's a good gig. Whoop.
Bad jokes.
Bad jokes. Okay, so today we were talking about the re-signing issue and whether or not re-signings, are they good or are they bad? Early re-signings going into a volleyball season, a club season in particular, because we know there's a few different reasons why clubs do them. There's a few reasons why parents and players are on board with it, and there's probably some pros and cons we can get into today, and ultimately whether or not we think that they should continue. First thoughts.
Tryouts are always two phases, right? There's always like the initial and a follow-up, or like there's always two rounds type thing, or three.
Not necessarily.
Sometimes it's just a one-up.
some places. I mean, the bottom line is like, however the tryouts work out, the issue. So
there may not be needed a second round.
Yeah, maybe we should
sure.
define to what early re-signings are.
Yeah,
for
right.
people who maybe don't live in an area where they don't know or they haven't been a part of it before. But basically, it's club teams can offer players that they want, like at the end of a season or even early in the summer or whatever their off season is. They can offer players early guaranteed spots on the team next year.
Yeah.
And we talked about this a little bit in an earlier episode.
Yeah.
I mean, there's pros and cons to it. Do you want to talk about maybe some good things? Or were you going to go somewhere else with it?
Some good things.
Can you think about some good reasons for that? Or like, so maybe how about this? Why does it appeal to club teams, do you think?
So they can lock in players.
Mm-hmm.
So they can have a roster. That's the only good thing I can think of it. It's because it's coming from a point of fear, it seems like.
Yeah.
And so they want to offer them. And then, but also the people who are responding to them, like accepting these like to me, this isn't preseason, or sorry, these are offerings without the tryout. That's the weird thing, right? So
based on their past performance.
Yeah. Like I can understand having a tryout and then like in the first tryout already being offered like a spot on the team. That makes sense. And then, you like say there's like 2 or 3 tryouts for this club team, but on the first one, like a certain amount of players are offered. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But this is to do like you said, at the end of the season before tryouts, they're already given a spot. It sounds like from the club, it's coming from a point of fear of losing the player,
Mm-hmm.
but it also sounds like from the player accepting that offer, it's also coming from a point of fear.
Yeah.
Right? Like why, or the coach is really great, but then if the coach is really great, they wouldn't be doing preseason offerings
they do. Yeah. Early re-signings.
Early re-signing, not
yeah.
preseason.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that you're right. Like the club, for instance, so some of the things a club or an organization would deal with is that they want to know things like how many coaches do we need for next year? How many people are locked in? So
right.
Logistically, there's some of that, but you're right.
There's a benefit to it logistically, for sure.
But the biggest thing for sure is fear of losing a player that has been with your club for a few years.
Yeah.
And see, once the governing bodies, so like not just the clubs, but the governing body in a region, in a state, or a province, once they put in this early re-signing thing, then it becomes a thing for a club. Like if you don't offer a kid an early spot, then the family gets pissed off or offended, and then they'll go to another team because you didn't offer them. So it's a very tricky thing. So it's actually like, as much as we're talking about club teams and stuff, like it's actually really important that we talk about the governing bodies here. Because, I mean, if the governing bodies tomorrow scrapped all early re-signings and said from now on it's all based on tryouts. So, like, you can imagine the clubs, what they would be upset about. The clubs would be like, well, now I got kids coming and testing the waters, seeing which coaches are with which club teams when we don't even know which club, like how many coaches we need. Like imagine if you had like 3 coaches lined up that are all top notch, and then you find out that 2 of them you didn't even need, and then you're like, what do you do, right? So then you got players running around, and then the families will like, oh, we'll try to take the best offer from this club, or we'll commit to this club.
Right.
But then we'll say yes orally to this club, but then if we get a better offer, then we'll only sign at that club and we'll take back. So there was that weird issue for clubs where...
Well, so you're describing the reasons why these now exist.
I'm saying why clubs...
Because that would have been happening, right?
That would be happening if it was like a Wild West free-for-all. That could happen. But there is an antidote. And you sort of hit on it. We always hit on it on the show.
What?
Well, the antidote is like making sure that you get your coaching in gear nice and early and advertise that, right? Like, here's who our coaches are. Here's what they do. They're not just a guy or girl. They're not just some parent. They are, if they are, they've got this resume together. And then all the kids will want to come play for that coach.
And they'll try out, and then they may still go to another club's tryout, but like they are already that initial club with the good advertising, with the good coaches, has already taken up the majority of the space in their mind. So they're already leaning towards it. They'll go to that tryout. They may try another one, but like they're pretty much locked into that one.
Yeah, because this way, the clubs are competing on this like let's sign them level. When really, if that was gone, they would want to compete on the let's get the best staffing level. They're not even trying to compete. Like, you know what I mean? They're not even trying to outdo the next club with coaching quality per se.
Right.
Because they can do the early signings.
Okay, so now I'm getting vibes of already this equality versus fairness versus just competitiveness versus hard work over kind of...
Yeah, that's pretty much all we talk about every episode.
Like this is just equality. It's making everything equal, but it kind of takes out the ability for anyone to try harder and then thus be rewarded.
Yeah, or the need to try harder
is removing the need for it, right?
And it's rooted in, like you said, like, you know, again, our culture in general is running towards this, like, we don't want people to be uncomfortable. You know, like we don't want a club to be uncomfortable. We don't want a player or parent to be uncomfortable. We want to have peace of mind, right?
Yeah.
And the more we head down that peace of mind path, the less fight we have in us as athletes, as a culture, the less tough we are.
The more easily we are to succumb to blowouts, because like.
Yeah.
If our lives are just so cushy all the time, the slightest little thing is going to make us.
And that's where we are.
That's where we are. Yeah.
That's where we are because convenience is like interesting thing in sociology. Sometimes they talk about, like, you know, if the culture keeps evolving and keeps getting better, right, and that we'll reach a point where the culture has evolved, that we as members in that culture will start devolving or regressing because we are now not. We're not evolving anymore. There's no need. There's no push to get better if everything's taken care of.
Yeah, right. You then have to.
Yeah. You
have to become ineffective or de-evolve in a way. Otherwise, how are you going to improve again?
Yeah, like if things get so comfortable, then we will not evolve anymore. I don't even want to say regress, because in today's culture, we almost think of regressing as a positive. Like the people that can sort of go back to old school thinking and living, in terms of like habits and work ethic, at least, they tend to keep evolving. Versus the ones that, you know, embrace every convenience. You get soft, you get lazy. Mentally, shortcuts, and like you said, the shortness of temper. Like you can't handle anything that's not going exactly because you're so used to manipulating everything to be perfect for you, right?
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing, and that's sort of what I think of when I think of this issue. I think that it's more of a sign of our let's not make people upset. Let's not make people feel like they need to work harder or be uncomfortable in a tryout situation. And let's just give it to them.
Yeah, it kind of gives me like the feels of, you know, like pro sports as well. Like, you know, they contract rules and stuff like that they've been established, like, and they keep evolving as the league goes on, right? And they're heavily refined now, but obviously this isn't, and it's not an equal comparison because we're talking huge amounts of money, and we're talking that's why there's specific rules and there's salary caps and all this stuff. these kids aren't getting paid anything.
Yeah.
You know.
That's
so
to protect. Yeah, that's to protect an industry.
Yeah.
Right. And to protect like weak markets, and they want to make sure the superstar doesn't just bail and run to go play in New York all the time.
Well, right. There's money backing and there's money interest in here. That's why it is so well refined, because there's so much money in it. Like in youth volleyball, like no one's really getting rich except potentially maybe some club directors. Yeah, possibly. But I can't. I'm just trying to think of other reasons why they would do this early offering, like at the end of the season. It's just I can only think of reasons of establishing security.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, for both parties or all the parties involved. Yeah.
Because like how can anything be better than having a tryout where no one's guaranteed a spot and there's like it's the best coach in that region and everyone knows it and everyone shows up to try out. And then they get to pick their team. Like obviously that team, it sounds like it would just be amazing.
And I just think that again, it's shortcutting the hard work. So if the club can bypass that, because you said the best coach in the region. Well, what if you're the other club? Now you're like, well, nobody's coming to my club. Well, then be better.
Well, right? And then that's just it. That's the thing. So that club that with not as good a team, they'll lose, but then that is what's going to make them get better. That's what's going to make that coach get better. That's what's going to.
It's like a weird, like, you know what it reminds me of? It's like, I hate to say, it's like the socialism. It's like socialism of volleyball, right? I think socialism, I mean, not to offend anybody, but socialism has its merits. There's the idea that we all chip into things. And we do socialism in so many aspects of our lives, no matter what country you're in, there's socialist aspects of our lives. Like, stopping at a red light, you could argue is a form of socialism because we've all agreed on this, my needs don't come first, whatever. Public education, public hospitals, whatever. But in terms of this, it's like when it comes to sports, it's like we're youth sports. We're like, okay, we don't want any one club to be taking over the area because they're the ones getting in the best coaches. They're the ones getting all the good players. But the minute a good player starts developing on one of these crappier clubs, then they run to the good club. Well, I mean, isn't that the law of the universe? Like we always talk about, like, aren't hierarchies kind of natural? And maybe if that other club wants to have its, I mean, I guess the thing is, like, is there ever room for the secondary club to get better? If everybody's drawn to if all the moths are drawn to the bright light, can the secondary clubs ever? Yeah, I think they can.
Sure, yeah. I totally think so. Like maybe whatever, they'll have like a 30-70 like win to loss ratio or something.
And maybe the better question is, will they ever be motivated to get better in a system that doesn't require that they have to fight? You know what I mean? Like if we make the system egalitarian, then all we're doing is ensuring that nobody has to be great, right? Yeah. Like I came from this world. Like, so I worked in the public sector for a long time, and I also had a private sector life of my own business. And I remember sitting in the public sector going, like, there's no drive here to be better.
Yeah.
There's no, like, everybody's earning the same. Not that it's about money necessarily if you're working in the public sector or even in a charitable side, but you can get numbed by security. Right. I think we can all say this, that if we have security in our lives, yes, it's funny because security is one of the things that we crave. Yeah. Right. Like we work every day to gain security.
We're meant to be constantly craving it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like a protectionist evolutionary thing.
Yeah. If you take it away, the need for it, then all those other things are just going to fall out.
Yeah. Like we love
elements. We love
and we love creativity. We love stability and predictability, but if we get it to a point where that's there, then we immediately start to fall off.
Yeah
It's funny, eh?
Yeah, it does definitely feel like when anything gets large, like you mentioned, I work in a hospital. Like any large organization, the bigger it is, the more policies and rules and all this stuff comes into effect, right? And it's basically just to make everyone's like jobs easier in a way.
I think what it is once an organization starts to grow, it has to do these things because they don't want, and especially now, they don't want individuals to think. Because if you come up with some stupid
the thinking
solution,
is all taken out of it. There's a policy for every scenario.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just
because I've been there, like as an organization that was growing from like, I don't need to be there, I need to get staff to do things. So you create policies and you're writing them. And you're like, oh my God, I'm becoming the big institution here now, and I'm like creating policies. And so sometimes I do write the policy of like, use your best judgment, or you can figure it out. And then you just make sure that the people, just tying in with coaching here, you make sure the people are the right people doing the thinking. But of course, when organizations get to the size that we are now, like
when they don't have control of the people that are joining it,
or even the hiring, because you've gotten so big now where you're up sitting here in an office and there's like 50 people hiring people, and it's basically, so like the reason why I have rules and procedures is because we don't trust people.
Well, so that's the link there. The pre-signing and the policies, all of that is due to the people that it's affecting.
Yes.
Right. So
and I think that there's like, so it is, so I would tell like, for parents listening to this, and it's a tough one to do, but I would want to, and I guess coach, it has to be a symbiotic thing. It has to be like a joint thing. You want the clubs to stop offering guaranteed spots. Yeah. Because you're killing sports.
Or at least cut it down to only being able to offer like 50% of your team or something.
Yeah.
Like,
we've seen full rosters.
Maybe that is a first step.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Yeah. That's limiting it. Yeah. Yeah. Great call.
Because I think what we're kind of getting
at, but the only problem with that, what would happen with that scenario? The reason why they don't do that. I think if you were number 7 on the list.
Yeah, well,
hurt feelings.
Right.
And like
bitter
players.
If the whole point is to protect people's feelings, then so say that isn't a thing. They can offer the full roster. And so they offer 13 whatever, so 13 people sign, and you think you were the 14th and you didn't get an offer. You're going to be hurt feelings there anyways. So,
but it's worse if it's only 6 and then all your friends got picked, but and you didn't get picked.
Yeah, but then you can still try out.
I know, but it's not. Yeah,
so now it's like, oh, you didn't offer, so now I'm not going to try. This is so stupid.
What if it was you, though, Eric? What if it was you?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right.
Always remember, what if it was you? If it was you on the outside, you'd be like, all my friends made it and I didn't. F them. I'm going to the other club. That's what would be the thought.
You're right. So it's either use it or abolish it entirely.
I think so. I think they put the onus, like, I think governing bodies are so afraid to make clubs.
The reason why I said 50% is because I just don't see them abolishing this at all. Like,
I know what you mean.
Right. So I was trying to find a middle ground, but you're right. A middle ground isn't going to work. It's either.
That's probably, I think these things in a lot of regions, I think they started as like something like that, limited number of pre-signings. And then people got livid and they got pissed off because their kid didn't get an offer, and then they're going to go over here and they're like, no, but I wanted to put you on the team. Well, then why did you make the money offer? Because I only had 4 or whatever. I only had 5. Yeah. So you can just see how these all evolved.
It's going to make more headaches. Yeah.
Yeah. I think how about with this?
It's already making more headaches, actually.
It is. So how about this? How about we have tryouts, right? How about this? We advertise tryouts and we try to get the best coaches, because we know that that's what athletes really want, good coaching. And then you have tryouts and then you offer the best players the spot. Because I told you what happened with my kid, right? So my kid and a couple other kids playing, she was 16 playing on an 18-year-old team as a libero, right? Starting libero. So really good enough to make a team 2 years older in a pretty big region. And another friend was on the team who was also young enough to play another year. Then the 17-year-old team was all coming up as a group, and the coach was moving with them. So they offered all of them the spots on the top tier team. And they didn't even ask or think of saying, hey, was there anybody good on last year's 18-year-old team coming back to play?
So Did you tell me this?
Yeah. So that means that nobody, doesn't matter how good they are.
So you had 16-year-olds playing on an 18U team.
Yes.
And then a whole 17U team comes up, and the 16-year-olds are just completely forgotten about.
Yeah, they weren't even asked, do you want to play on this team since you were already on the top team last year?
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, no, it was all because the coach was insecure. I'll just finish this. The coach was insecure and wanted to keep his girls together.
Yeah.
The girls were insecure and all wanted to save their spot. And the club was insecure because they didn't want to lose any players from that team or that coach.
Yeah, this all reeks of comfort.
It's reeks of comfort, and it reeks of, you know what it is? It's like weakness. It's weakness.
Yeah,
it's like lack of competitive fire. You want none of these
getting
kids.
so mad every time you say the word weakness.
Well, it is weakness. Yeah, like it just I can't. Well, this is what as an athlete, as an entrepreneur, I just can't stand it when people take the fire. So you know what happened?
I can't believe this.
Let me finish that story too. So that team had very toxic players on it that are like some of the worst.
So why would the coach even want to keep them together?
Because they're all afraid. They're all afraid together. We're all afraid together.
Nice.
You know, and that's just one example. I mean, I could go down the list of so many examples where I've seen kids in other tryouts, even if my kid was offered a guaranteed spot, I would say, listen, don't take it. I would tell my kid, don't take it.
Dude, and
go try out.
That's such a good reason that advocates for the tryouts, is because you can have a kid who maybe makes over 1 year, has some friends on a team that aren't necessarily the best kids to be hanging around, and you can start to see your kid kind of picking up bad social habits and all this stuff, blah blah blah. But then the next year comes around, tryouts come around, and then all of a sudden that little thing is broken up, and now your kid gets to meet some new players that have a bit of a better mindset, and now all of a sudden that problem is solved, right? So the tryout fixes it in that scenario.
Agreed.
Like, why would you ever want to lock someone in, especially developing socially, to already have them in what we like to call echo chambers from age 14 to 18, and then send them off to university? Great job.
No, you're right. But this is the thing is, like, we put our kids, remember we talked about this too, why are kids not getting the same thing from sport anymore? This is one of the reasons, because we're not putting them through that fight process. We're not putting them through that am I good enough feeling, right? That insecurity. Here's another scenario. I'll tell you another story. So my daughter went to a tryout in a big city. Well, no, because it's so I know that these stories are not unique to us. They're just but so she went to a tryout in another club, right? And she went to try it for the 18-year-old team this past year, and she was really dominant at tryouts, and she was really strong, and the coach liked her, but the coach knew the team was very weak. So he took her aside and said, listen, you're too good for this team. Unfortunately, you're young enough to play on the other team, the 17-year-old team, but it's full because they all re-signed. And he said, but listen, here's another club that I know needs a couple outside hitters. That's a very good club. And he was awesome, and he texted us. He followed up. He was one of those good coach. We actually sent our daughter there because we knew that he was the right coach. Cool. He had the right mindset. We saw him with his teams before,
and he clearly showed it.
And he showed it. Yeah, he showed it because he came to us and said, "Here's another club. A friend of mine is coaching there, and you should go try out for that team." And it was a big Toronto club, and it was like, just the fact that he didn't care about owning the player. He could have locked her. He was a club director too. He could have said, "Hey, I want this player on my team."
He was the director, and why was he coaching that team then?
I think it was a smaller club, like a newer club that was starting up. So I think he was still. I'm pretty certain. Maybe he wasn't the director. I shouldn't say that, but he might. I feel like he was, because he was at other age groups tryouts, and he was hands-on, rare, right? He was watching the teams and watching the players, and he said that you as a player are going to get more from play rather than me offering you a spot on this crappy team. I'm going to give you a chance to go play for a team that's better for you as an athlete. That's the thing, eh?
Yeah.
Everybody's thinking for themselves in the story that we're talking about here, right? The parents thinking about their insecurity, the players worried about their spot, the coach and clubs are worried about their needs. Whereas what you want in the competitive setting is that in a real tryout setting, people are insecure, right? Yeah. And then you get to see what they're like under pressure.
Yep.
And you get to see them work harder for things.
I see they're unfairly using social pressure as a way of securing a player as well. Yeah, so great friendships do come from sport, but it's not the reason for the sport. It's not the reason why you and I played volleyball or hockey was to make friends. Not directly.
Speak for yourself. I was lonely.
No, that ended up happening, but I don't. Or maybe it was a subconscious part of the reason. But
I think parents put you in it for social things.
You're drawn to the sport, but social.
So it taps into something very deep
happens
within us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It's
It taps into our inner animal sports, right? Like we can't murder people, but we can destroy them on the sport.
Well, I honestly think sports is just the modern day take on, like, I know people still hunt and stuff like that, but like I think that's what it ties into is how
It's funny this comes up because I was putting on some old I used to be really into boxing, so I was putting on old Hagler Sugar Ray Leonard fight, and my daughter was like, it's so rough, this sport, it's like so violent. I said, but you could argue that it's actually tapping into something so real.
Yeah.
Right? Like and I said, isn't this kind of like all other sports are just a metaphor of like boxing or like hand-to-hand combat? Because ultimately, like, you're beating someone on the baseball field, the volleyball court, you're kind of beating them up. And it's that's why people get, in their face.
Mentally, it's no different.
Yeah. So this is like taking it right down to the source. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Of course, these guys are making millions, and there's like, it's in Vegas in a casino, but there's something very pure about getting hit in the face. And she said, like, or my daughter said, but when you feel weird or something, when you feel weird like hitting someone, I said, yeah, that feeling will last for about 2 seconds right after they punch you in the face. And then it'll feel very natural.
Yeah.
So like, my favorite Mike Tyson quote was, everybody has a game plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Out the window, it just turns into...
Well, so not only that, but then once you get that check worth however much money.
Well, isn't boxing sort of the exact thing we're talking about here? Like, what happens to the heavyweight champions? Like Buster Douglas, if anybody watches boxing, Buster Douglas knocked out Mike Tyson famously, and his next fight, he came in 40 pounds overweight because he was living the heavyweight championship dream. He was entitled. He got the guaranteed whatever.
He got his butt
and
kicked.
Then he got his butt kicked, and Holyfield knocked him out, and it was easy. And it wasn't even a real fight because this guy was in great shape. His mother actually passed away right before that fight. And he fought Tyson. He fought the fight of his life against Tyson. And then when he came in to fight Holyfield, he was like so out of shape because he was spoiled by being given things. Right?
Yeah.
So every boxer deals with this.
Huh.
It's actually great that we brought up boxing because it really is so evident in there. Whenever you become champion, you run the risk of becoming a victim to the hungry guy or girl these days. Right,
Conor
on the way
McGregor up. And what was his name? Oh man, the Russian.
Yeah, in MMA.
Yeah.
What's his name?
I know.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, but it's everybody. This is why Rocky was made. Remember the Rocky movies?
Mm-hmm.
Like the reason why those movies, Apollo Creed in Rocky 1 was the entitled spoiled champ, and Rocky Balboa was the bum from Philadelphia who wasn't supposed to win, but he was working his butt off.
And this makes such good stories because this is just, I don't know, these stories are so ingrained in like all throughout history, right?
Yes.
Like the rise and fall, the tragedy.
Yeah, cultures. Hero. Yeah, cultures do it. They get too comfortable. You could argue people looking at our whole culture are probably seeing this, that the Western culture has gotten very spoiled by convenience, like we talked about. And there are scrappy, poor countries around the world that are going to kick our butts and things. And, I don't even know if that's the right way to look at it as competition between nations, but it's the same thing. Yeah. What's the name? You got it?
I'm looking for it.
I can't believe I forget his name.
I know. I just I feel like I said all the time. Oh, Khabib.
Khabib, yes.
Yes.
Nurmagomedov. Everybody just calls him Khabib, yeah.
Yeah.
No, exactly, yeah. That's the idea. Scrappy, but that's sort of what we're taking away in tryouts. We're taking away the scrappiness.
Yeah. Well, okay, and not only that, but as a kid, I want to play volleyball. I mean, as an adult as well. I want to play volleyball, and then I want the season to end, and that'll be that moment. I don't want to think about tryouts until tryouts come around. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be like, oh, I got my preseason thing, and now I'm already, because for that entire summer vacation, that's just 6 months of me gonna be complacent come tryouts, right?
Yeah.
I want to play the season. I want it to end. I want to go play beach. And then I want to show up at tryouts, and then I'll think about tryouts the week before tryouts.
Yeah. I mean, are you saying that people with guaranteed spots are thinking about tryouts earlier?
Yeah. No, well, that's the thing. You now have in a way, to me, that's a suffering. It's now I have to think about not a suffering, but it's I'm locked into that team, and I know 5 months in advance or 4, I don't know, whatever. Mm-hmm. That kind of that sucks. I don't want to know that information.
What do you think that would do to your summer? Would it make you work harder?
No, it's not.
Okay. So,
no, it's not.
Well, some people, so to play devil's advocate, some people might say that, no, if I I mean, I guess it depends on who you are as a person. There are some people who might get an early offer and go, okay, now I got to earn that spot. Right? That would be cool.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's most kids.
Yeah. And I don't know.
Every parent is like, no, that's not my kid.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I'm speaking personally, but I don't want to know. I don't want to know something about like that far in advance. Like I just want it to like happen and then I deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's sort of like, that ties into nature too, because some people don't like to have obligation, right? Long-term obligation.
And that's probably what that is.
It's the fear of pressure.
Yeah. Well, because then I don't know, like, yeah, then maybe someone else that's on the team and maybe you didn't like them that much. And now you're like, oh,
that's
man,
true.
Like, I'm going to end up playing with so-and-so like 4 months from now.
Well, how about like that?
And then you have all this time to make this thought, and then you can turn. That's what our brains are so good at. They're so terribly good at making a thought and then
run with it.
Turning it into a monster.
Yeah.
Turning it into all this stuff, right?
Yeah. What about the idea that every season will feel the same? Like, remember we talked about the adventure of your life, like letting life be an adventure, and every fall maybe it could be some crazy thing that you think you don't want,
right?
And it ends up being amazing for you, like that.
Dude. So you're already giving like routine and predictability to a kid's summers. Like I think every one of us can say, when we think back on our childhood, a year felt like eternity, and a summer vacation felt like eternity, right? Like now as adults working like whatever, like it's like years go by. So I don't know that it kind of takes away some of the magic.
You look at all the kids playing outside now and you're like, get off my lawn.
Yeah.
I don't get to play around like that anymore.
Yeah.
That's basically what we're saying. No, I know we've taken this beautifully unpredictable thing and tried to put it into a box of predictability, and that's never good.
And it's at the core of it's a part of what the core of sport is and what competition is.
It is what it is.
It's the
that's
beginning.
That's why
of
we
it.
do it. Like that's like I talked about those two boxers fighting. It's unpredictability. That's why we watch. That's why they're in it. It's like who knows what will happen. And in sport, I just imagine if we just said, all right, no early re-signings, and you got to show up and try out, and clubs have this many days to sign players after tryouts are done. Tryouts, this is what most places used to do. Tryouts have to be finished by this date. Offers can start on this date, and they wrap up on that date.
Yeah.
And then you make the offers and maybe extend the window if you're worried about some player accepting one place. But once a player accepts, then they're off the table. And too bad if you have a go down your list and have, okay, I didn't get that player, I got to get in the next one. But it should happen. Again, this is like losers running things versus winners. If losers are looking at the roster going, man, we're losing all the good players. Well, a winner would say, we need to get better coaches, and we're going to do whatever it takes to get better coaches. And you know what? Maybe as a club, maybe we suck. That's the other thing too, right? If you suck as a club, then you're just going to say, oh, it's everybody else's fault that we're not getting players, and that's the problem. That's the nature of everything. But just make it competitive.
In an ideal situation, say you've got like in a certain region, you got 10 clubs, and they all have good or competent to good coaches, right? Yeah. And then they're all like hungry in a way. And during that, whatever, like 2-week period of trying to get players, they're making a lot of phone calls, putting in a lot of effort, talking with families. And then really just it's left with the family to decide. And like the best, that's in an ideal situation, people will just pick probably like regionally and where their kid has friends, right? Yeah. And then that's the best thing for you. Because like now obviously that isn't the situation that we're in. So some clubs will end up they won't have a team form, and now that coach that was signed up with them doesn't have a team to coach. But also at the same time, it's probably possible for that coach to shift to another, because if it's within the same competing region, maybe it's probably going to add some travel time. But like in a suburban area where there's like, in the area we're in, there's like so many teams, it's it could be like a 15-minute drive. Now it's going to be like a 40-minute. I don't know. Like, so there's flexibility within that.
Mm-hmm. I think that the idea, so I was going back to earlier, like sort of ties in what you're saying. Like, if parents are obsessed with what's better for their kid, and if coaches and everybody else are obsessed with what's better for the kid, the athlete, then they would bring the competition back in. And the kid would, the parent would not want their kid. Like I said, like I wouldn't let my kid, if someone offered our kid an early spot, and it's happened, but we don't do it. We just say, you know what, try it where you want, see which coach is best, see which club is best, and do it that way. And don't take any early offers. And I think if more parents start doing that, then hopefully this or maybe even if parents start writing governing bodies, start letting them know that I think this early re-signing thing, because it's so political. Like, here's the other thing I was going to say. Like, you were mentioning beach volleyball, right? So imagine if you're in grade 10 or grade 11 or something, right? And you spend the whole summer playing beach and weight training, exercising, and you still don't have a shot at the top team because it's full. What if you're way better? Like, think of the jump.
Right.
Like, are we kidding me? Like, think of the jump that athletes have between like 15 to 17. Like, you know, athletes get so much better, so much stronger, taller, faster. Yeah. Like, something clicks. And for a player not to make a team, I've seen kids get turned down, like best player in the gym, but they can't get a spot. Yeah. The team, like, it's craziness. And the coaches still aren't doing it because they're not competitors themselves by nature. You know, like, they weren't if you're an athlete, if you're like, so let's suppose you're a high level athlete who becomes a coach, right? Like, when I was coaching, we never had any of this. And I had full confidence that whoever walks in that gym and whoever's amazing, now, different era, fewer clubs when I coached. Yeah. You know, less competition for players. And
it was that good kind of nervousness. Like, that's a good feeling to go through.
Robbing every kid. Like, imagine that if you had 2 or 3 years of club where you didn't get those butterflies and fears before tryouts. That's why I didn't want my kids any part. Like, we took them around to different clubs, and they picked the coach club where they got the best feel.
That's probably one of the biggest things I got to benefit from out of sports was
anxiety.
Yeah. And like, because it was always a progression of, like, you know, getting to better teams, whatever sport it was in. And it was like, it's like nerve wracking, but then it's also rewarding because then you're playing ball at a higher level or hockey at a higher level. And then, I don't know, well, that's confidence building.
That's
in a way,
it.
Right?
That's the only way you build confidence, is to go through these things and then come out on the other side when you didn't think you could. Yeah. That's how you build confidence. You don't build confidence by getting a guaranteed thing.
You're not going to.
And like I said, like, the amount of people that I've seen in youth volleyball on the guy side and on the girl side get knocked, like, just not considered. Like you don't know. What if they hated their club last year, right? And you come. That's the other thing too. A lot of clubs assume that if you've traveled to try out for them, that you're not really there, that you're just there for touches. That was one thing we got a lot.
Wait, what?
Clubs would literally come up to us, like coaches would ask us, "Now, are you guys just here for touches, or like you're not really gonna, because they'll look at your address and they're like, you're not really here to play, right?" Or so they might not give you an offer because they think that you're just there kicking tires or getting a workout for your kid, so that they can go to their real club and get it and look better or try out there or whatever. And I'm like, don't make that assumption about anybody. Why don't you just offer the best 12 players the spots, have a list of 6 other players that you have, and if those 12 are unavailable, then you plug in one from 6. It's such an easy system. It's just like, I don't know, like I said, everybody's running around like with their heads chopped off, looking for oh my God, like tryout season in club. Like, for parents listening, they can relate. It's just like craziness. It's like everybody's like scrounging for like safety and like trying to find a spot for their kid. Like, if you work your ass off and train, and you'll find a team. Could be the second team, could be the third team, whatever. You'll find a team. But the clubs are the same. They're running around like, oh, we're trying to lock up this player, lock up that player. Yeah. So everything's coming from a place of insecurity. And that's why I couldn't stand the club world. That's why, like, we couldn't, like, as athletes and high level people, like, if you're like, you came out and saw some stuff and it was already making you cringe when you're watching my kids practice tournaments and stuff. Yeah. You're just like, this is not, and it's just it's not even sports. Like, club volleyball, like, there's a lot of clubs that get it right. Don't get me wrong, but they are the exception to the rule. Like, today, it's just this toxic.
I guess in that one gym where there was like 3 matches going on, so you got 6 teams. There was maybe at any given time 1 team out of 6. It seemed like.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty high. I think the ones
trying to put numbers to it.
Yeah, the ones that get it generally are the ones that spend a lot of time working on the coaching.
Like, well, that makes sense.
That's the key. That's why when I said,
get there.
If anybody's listening, if we talk about this, if anybody's a club, so I have a volleyball organization too, and I always said if we went into the club world, I would limit the number of teams I had at each age group, and I would get the best coaches, and we would pay them very well.
You'd only run a team if you had the coach. It's the only way.
Yeah.
It's not like,
but I would start with the coach.
Yeah.
Start with the coach. Get the coach. Get them paid well for their time, their expertise. That way you can attract someone of quality.
we should do it.
So we talk about it all the time.
I know. I don't want to do it.
Well, there's different ways to come at it. Like we're doing it in a different way through our business.
Yeah.
Right? But the idea here is that if it's a club world, you get a great coach, and that way the players and the parents are lining up to play for you. There are clubs in the States that do this. There are private clubs in the States that do this.
Yeah.
You could do it as a not-for-profit too. You could just up your fees and make sure that coach is getting paid really well.
Yeah.
Get the right person in, right mindset, and then the players and parents will be dying to play for you.
Why don't we see more of those then? Interesting.
Well, I mean, this goes into a lot of things.
Interesting.
So who is running clubs?
Yeah.
Who are they and why are they there? Are they volleyball players necessarily?
Yeah.
Are they high-level volleyball people? No. The bulk of coaches, the bulk of directors are not high-level volleyball people. They are there for authority and they're there for power. Because you have to take courses to get that respect. You know, if you want to be a cop, a teacher, a lawyer, a doctor, whatever, you get respect, but that takes years of certification. If you want instant authority, you, my friend, go into youth coaching. You mean I don't have a test? You mean there's nothing? I can just walk in and be like the boss of a lot of people? Yes. And I can make or break people's lives? Yes. Okay. So
that's just one sport.
Yeah. So I'm club director now. So I don't want to hire someone who knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that because
right, of course.
They'll be superior to me. And that's not why I went into
this is another theme that we love to use that is used in Hollywood and stuff like that. The what do you call it? I don't even know what you would call that.
The insecure
archetype, but
the weak, the power trippy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's not happening. So you have to be a very secure. So I know, a friend of mine, a guy that worked with us before, a pro player.
Shakespeare episode.
He went to California, and he's working with a private club started by a high-level pro player. And this high-level pro player is only hiring other high-level pro coaches, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
At least for the bulk of teams. I don't know if parents are coming in.
How big is that club?
It's very big. And they pay their coaches. They pay their coach. Yes, I think so.
Boys and girls.
Yeah, and they have access to a facility, and boys and girls, and they pay very well. And make a great living as a coach there.
That's amazing.
That's what attracts them, and that's why our friend was attracted to it because he knew he was going to go to a place where they're coaching well, they care about quality,
and he's so passionate about coaching.
And he's he's such a high level coach.
Yeah,
and he and I talked all the time about philosophy, and
it's a perfect place for him to learn, right?
Perfect place for him to hone his skills, and get paid well while he's doing it. And that's why he was attracted to it. Hours away from his home. And that's what you do. But you have to be a very secure person to bring in people like that.
Right.
And the reason why that director can do it is because he spent his life playing high-level professional volleyball. He's a very great player. So he's not threatened.
We never have talked about this, but a lot of these coaches who we can only be thankful for them that are working at these, like, say, not-for-profits that are only making like maybe a few $1,000s in a season. They're just getting most of their bills covered.
Mm-hmm.
But like,
not even, I would say.
Like, what is their progression as a coach? Say they do this for 5 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they are getting better, where's the motivation to get better coming from? Like, I understand, like, caring for like kids and youth, and like a lot of people do, and there's like there's a genetic element to that, and some people don't care about it, but obviously they're not really into coaching,
right?
But like, if you're not really making a lot of money, but you love the sport and you like kids, there's that is going to make you a better person in general, and a better coach.
100%. And we should say there's a ton of those coaches in club, right?
I think there is.
We're seeing a ton of people that just care about the kid.
Yeah.
But they aren't the ones benching players.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the value thing, right? That's the difference. Like the coach that is passionate about the kid, and like obsessed with the player experience, is not gonna sub that kid out before they go serve, to humiliate them, because that'll just ruin the kid, makes them worse. They're not gonna bench the kid because we have to win this game at 14 we have to win this 15-year-old gold medal. That's garbage.
And these are the types of coaches that get boxed out of the sport because parents get mad at them, or their club directors are telling them what to do, and then they just like,
Yep.
okay, well, like nothing's keeping me here because I'm not really getting paid to do this, and it's just costing me a ton of my time. So therefore, I'll just go. And then who steps into place? It's these people who want authority or whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting, because you're kind of trapped, like, in defensive coaches, you're kind of trapped, Like if
the system doesn't sound like a very good place to be in. If you're passionate about coaching, it's these ones you have to go to places like where our friend is in California.
Yeah, but they won't hire you if you're not a high level.
Right.
Yeah, if you have the right mindset, that might not be it might be enough. I don't know, but the problem for coaches is that if you're going for all in for wins and you're benching players and you're subbing them out, then you're obviously pissing off the parents who put their kids in the sport for, I would say, the right reasons, to get the experience and the reps and to be built up, not to be torn down.
Yeah.
And then if you are the coach if you have the right mindset and you play everybody more fairly, you don't humiliate players by subbing them out because that affects their mental game, and it'll ruin them actually. But if you do that, like if you ruin player confidence, they're going to suck more. Then you will get those loser parents who are like trying to, why aren't we trying to win gold? Why are we playing Timmy or Susie or whatever?
Yeah.
And you're like, shut up, they're 12, like relax. You know what I mean? Like, but I would submit to you that those parents are in the minority. I think that those parents are the vocal minority. Same with the coaches. Right. That's why our show is starting to get, reach some traction here with people, because the loser coaches are in the minority. So I hope people, when they hear this from us, they know that we're not thinking that all the clubs are led by insecure people. But I think because it's so vocal, because it's, just like online, the stupid ideas are the ones that spread the fastest.
Most of the attention gets focused on the small
squeaky wheels. So the squeaky wheel directors, like, we're worried about these players leaving, and then the organizations are like, well, then let's give them guaranteed contracts, and then everyone
does it,
and then everyone does it. The next club has to do it because you're doing it,
and then some of the parents love it, and then even though a bunch of them don't, and now you have this self-perpetuating cycle.
Downward spiral.
Where do you stop it?
Yeah, and it's just, I tell you, man, the region or the volleyball organization that takes off, and this goes back to that tryout period, offer period. If they do that, I think that it'll enhance the game. It won't make it worse. Yes, there might be a season or two where some club suffers, but it'll force those clubs to get better. Right.
So you think some clubs can just start to do that, and then even though
not just the clubs, so I mean the governing bodies.
Well, that's actually, what okay. So
governing bodies, you have to take it off.
That's what it means.
Yeah, because if a club just decides to do it, it's going to be tricky. Unless they spend their off season getting big name coaches, or not big name, but big real solid coaches with good resumes. Yeah. Mind you, parents don't know. But people lie about the resumes.
And so many, that's what I was just going to say. So many people will still just take the early signing with the other team.
Right.
Just because then, man,
it has to come to the governing bodies. I mean, it would be cool if it would be cool if a club said, "Hey guys, we're gonna offer open tryouts this year because we believe that athletes should fight out for spots, and we want the best athletes." And how about this? If you have if nobody believes us or wants to side with us, if you're a club right now, don't you want to see in the tryout what the player has under pressure?
Yeah.
Don't you want to see like passing with a guaranteed spot is a lot easier than passing with a non-guaranteed spot.
Yeah.
Right? And passing in a game is a lot more passing in the insecure.
That's what I mean. Like I don't remember most of my tournaments playing as a youth. I remember the tryouts.
Yeah.
Because they were intense.
It's true. Tryouts are scarring. You're right. Tryouts are way more memorable. You're right. Yeah, and we are robbing kids of getting that experience.
You love it.
Well, it is. It burns in your mind, and it's there's funny stories in tryouts that we all have that just
you get funny walk-ons and stuff like that, and then and nothing feels better when you're in like a serve and pass drill and you just like shank two of them. And then you like dime the third or something, and
the coach wasn't looking.
Yeah, and you're like,
that's always
it doesn't matter,
right? Every time you do a great play, and you look back to see if the coach was looking, and they missed it. And you're like, damn it! Now you got to try to do it again.
Yeah,
I can't. No, so I mean, I think that we were kind of biased going in because we knew where we stood on this, but if we were to play devil's advocate, I think we did that at the start.
Try to.
Yeah, like we understand the club's need for coaching and staffing, but I think they have it backwards, by the way, right? I think clubs and coaches, they go into seasons like, okay, we don't know how many coaches we're going to need. Why don't you go in with 2? Just go in with 2 good ones.
Right.
And just start that way.
Right.
Advertise that you have 2. Advertise that you're doing open tryouts. Let's suppose the governing body doesn't get rid of it. Let's suppose the governing body doesn't. But you tell parents that you think that athletes should fight it out. You think athletes should go through the process of tryouts. I guarantee you a lot of parents will gravitate to that mindset because that's why people put their kids in sports.
Yeah, but I was literally just about to say that. I think you hit on it really well. Would you?
Oh, I thought you were going to laugh because I thought you were going to say, no, I still think people would go the easy route.
That is what I'm about to say. Yeah,
that's why
you said it really well earlier.
I know.
The how we crave security. That's such a massive impulse. So to be offered that, there's going to be so many parents that'll.
Yeah.
I wonder how that discussion goes between the parent and the kid. Like, oh, there's this club here. Like, there's a good coach, and like they're doing open whatever. Yeah, some of them, I think the percentage will be smaller on the ones who find who see the value in that and will be attracted to that. But I think the majority are going to be like, oh, but you can play with your friends at the club you played last year.
But don't you think though that so I guess the key, the linchpin here, because
security is offered.
Yeah, security is offered, but don't forget, there's also a different kind of security. If you know the other team or the other club or your club, if it's your club, have this coach. And you have a little bit of knowledge about who that coach is, and this coach is back from playing in Europe or South America. I can see that being
a turning point.
This coach just came back from playing professionally in the Middle East or South Africa, South America or something.
Yeah,
and they're here to coach. There is some security there because the parent knows now that they're not usually going to get a nightmare scenario with that sort of athlete.
That's true,
right? And there's going to be definite knowledge, real knowledge to be gained. So there's that security. I think people would come running again if clubs spent their time and energy on really cleaning up the coaching, not like it's lazy, right? Like same with them, the security of coaching. Oh well, Tom's back and Tom's been coaching for us for 20 years. Tom started as a parent. Tom loved volleyball in elementary school.
Yeah.
Tom can show you the underhand serve.
So nice.
No, but what I mean is, so the club is also seeking security in who they're coaching from years. They're not shaking up they're not shaking things up.
I agree, and I think there's some things that we innately know. When we hear of like a good coach like that, like they've been coaching for this many seasons, a former pro at this league or blah blah. I think as a parent, we would kind of just know that if our kid was on that team, that coach would not allow like favoritism and like cliquey stuff, because you know what I mean? Like I don't know how, but I think we do.
Done it because we gravitate to people who've done it at the highest levels.
Right. And so, but say the parent hasn't played high level volleyball, but maybe they just know that like, hey, this coach is the kind of coach that we want, and we just know.
Well, why do people go on Shark Tank and Dragon's Den?
Why do they go on it?
Yeah.
Because they have a good idea.
Yeah, they got a good idea, and they know that the people sitting in front of them have done it at the highest levels.
Yeah.
So they haven't opened a multi-million-dollar business or $1 billion company, or they haven't sold a company for millions, but they know that the people sitting up there have done it.
Yeah.
So once you see, this is what we all gravitate. This is why we read books by people.
But my point is specifically with the example of like, if your kid is in like, they're in this weird clique on a team, and you just can tell it's not good for them. It's like a toxic friendship or something. Mm-hmm. How is it that we know that doesn't exist on a good team?
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean that's a whole different. So like
that is a whole different.
Yeah,
I don't know why I just
no, because you're saying like it does tie in because you're saying like guaranteed spot with a bunch of friends on the same team.
Yeah, not
could
good
keep
for
your kid long term in the wrong relationship thing. No, I think that's true. I just think that the real point is like, again, a parent has to know that, what is, this is why the previous episode was, what's the point of youth sports, right? Like the point is to develop and grow as a person.
Yeah.
And
staying
and bottom line,
stuck
if we were to sum this up, I mean, if you were to taking tryouts out of it and the uncertainty removes a key part of sport.
Yeah.
Right? The essence of sport
Huge
is
part of it.
Working towards something, accomplishing something that you didn't think you could accomplish, overcoming fears, overcoming anxieties, and striving to be the best. There is no strive and a resign. There's no strife. You got the spot.
Yeah.
And so if a kid walks into the gym after training and playing beach all summer, maybe they grew a couple inches, maybe they can jump higher than they were, they're stronger. Doesn't matter. You still got your spot. Garbage.
Are some people going to argue that the tryout is their season? Is that going to be the thing?
I mean, it could, but I mean, again,
it kind of is in a way.
That works though.
But it doesn't answer the thing of the kid who's been playing beach or training all summer, and then they will go to tryout and they're better than everyone, but they still don't get offered. It doesn't answer that.
No,
scenario,
because if these were adults, that would work. These are growing. See, that's the problem, right? Everybody's treating this like guaranteed contracts in pro sports, and some people argue that, right? Those are grown ass individuals,
and that's a system refined by huge amounts of money. Like,
but also, you know what you're dealing with at that stage.
Yeah,
you know who that person. By the time they're 25 and playing a pro sport,
by the time they're pro,
people know who this person is.
Yeah,
we don't know who these kids are, and we're treating them like they're 25-year-olds. These are unknown commodities.
And it's
kids will fall. You know how many times I've seen these superstar players at age 15, 16 become garbage by the time they're 17, 18. Like it just happens all the time. Or everybody passes them. It happens all the time.
And it happens in pro sports as well.
It happens in pro sports too. That's true.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying though. The older you get, the less unknown, the fewer unknowns there are. But with youth sports, to treat youth sports like locked up. Yeah, you're moving up a beat. Like I said, we know it's not. Nobody's thinking about the last season was the tryout. If last season was the tryout, then why have ever tryouts?
Yeah, I know.
Ever.
I just realized in my mind, like if the whole season was a tryout, then what's the difference between then and on the next season's tryout? Nothing. There isn't.
Yeah, and just think of that philosophy all the way.
And then
through.
you get to see how your athletes are actually what they're doing over the summer, anyways. Like, are they playing other sports? Like, are they really into volleyball? Are they just doing it for social reasons? Like,
yep. And one thing I like from philosophy was an idea. If you're ever wondering if what you're doing is a good idea or not, a great philosophical point is to ask yourself, what would it be like if everybody did this?
Yeah.
So if everybody in the world did whatever I'm contemplating doing. So let's take that example. So what really happens is every club in the world and every team just decided to re-sign their players every year. It wouldn't be good because nobody could break in. No new kids could join.
That's such a easy.
It's a nice way to decide anything you want to do. Right?
I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, write that down. So even if you're thinking of like shoplifting a chocolate bar, right? Next time you're thinking about shoplifting a chocolate bar,
exactly.
Think, what would the world be like if everybody shoplifted chocolate bars? Oh my God, there'd be no chocolate bars, and like nobody would sell chocolate bars.
Or they'd be really expensive.
Well, people would stop selling chocolate bars, or like, you know what I mean? So it would be a bad place. So that's how you know it's a bad thing to do.
What would it be like if this is a great exercise?
Yeah.
No, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, because you're gonna say something inappropriate.
Yeah, probably.
What would it be like if everybody murdered everybody?
Wow,
that would be bad. So I think we summed this up pretty nicely, right? Yeah, we talked about why it would appeal to teams. We talked about why it would appeal to players and parents. Good things about them we tried to come up with. The bad things about them we went on at length, and whether they should stop and why.
Don't do drugs.
Don't do drugs. Stop it. So if you're doing drugs, stop it. No. So you think we got it?
I think so. Yeah.
Is there anything else someone would say to us? Put on our club hat. I think one thing for sure, I think clubs would say as well, logistics. You know, we need to know how many coaches we are going to have in advance, but they still don't know. All they're guaranteeing is that top team that they re-signed. And then they still might have a crap ton of kids who come and try out.
Yeah. Well,
and can you imagine
that still happens. They still get way more kids than they've already pre-signed anyways.
And there's an uncertainty. Right? Yeah, and they don't know how many coaches they'll need anyway.
So even though they're doing this, there's still a lot of uncertainty on who. Well, no, because if it's all pre-signed, then why are they even hosting tryouts then?
Well, because they usually pre-sign the top teams. I find like they don't give everybody a pre-signed thing.
Okay.
I mean, for now, I guarantee you, the longer this goes on, they'll pre-sign all three teams.
I told you I was reading that one region, right? They were doing it for 16, 17, 18U, right? But that was.
But you don't know how many teams each coach is re-signing.
I think that was just. I think that was a different form. I think that was like they have a tryout and then they're able to offer. No, that was preseason. Sorry, that is what we were talking about.
Yeah.
But they weren't doing it for anything below 16U. But you're right. It's just a matter of time.
And also, but also like how many teams at each age group, right? Like
So
right now,
it's usually only done for the top team.
What I'm seeing, at least, but I'm sure there are but there are probably areas where if the club wants to guarantee know as much as they can going into next year, they're gonna be like, all right, well, let's just resign all 3 teams, and then we have our 3 coaches moving up. So like that's where it's gonna head.
Go in that direction.
Yeah. So I think the idea is to. I don't know. I think there's nothing wrong with bringing some heartbreak back into sports. I mean, like all these bad things we think are the worst things for us end up being great anyway. So why not just let a tryout actually be a tryout? Could you imagine?
Or pro sports and like say when we're 80 and you'll be older than that, but
I'll be 1,000.
Yeah. Are pro sports just going to be like terrible? Like,
well, I think we're seeing elements.
Imagine like 3 more generations, right? And then
well, we're seeing elements. I really think so. I think we're going to see a lot of mentally weak athletes in the highest levels of sport. I think we're already seeing it. I mean, I don't want to name names, but like the greatest basketball player of my generation compared to the greatest basketball player of this generation. It's a big difference in terms of mental toughness.
Open that can of worms again.
Well, there's a big difference. I think anybody can say there's a difference in mental toughness and different people, genetics, upbringing, society, social media. I mean, social media is definitely like we always talk about social media, but social media is a problem because it's making people compare. Like they're just firing those. It
definitely has yes, right. Those thought patterns are now getting locked in, and it's definitely a part of the reason of this early signing.
Yes,
it has a part to do
insecurity among everybody.
Insecurity on their phone, insecurity on their team, but
how the club looks online, how the team looks online, how the player looks online.
Right, and it can't be understated how.
Can't be overstated.
Overstated?
It can't be overstated.
Oh, right. There we go. How significant, like, understated. Yes. How, like, significant, like, mental well-being is for these young adults. And then they turn into adults with mental issues.
Yes.
Right? And
like, because we're protecting them from mental
That's what
anguish.
We're not really acknowledging here. Is that these kids are going to turn to adults and then they're going to be faced with the harsh reality of life. And then blowouts are going to happen. People are going to
the more you protect your kid from anguish and pain, relative speaking, but the more you protect them from that, the worse off they will be.
They're going to encounter it when they will encounter it. So
it
can't be overstated. Yes, it can't be overstated. Whoops.
No, you're going to accuse me of saying it. Like, I think you said that.
Respite?
Play it back. Respite. So I think that's good. So remember, the tryout is good for kids. And the less certain they are about their spot, the more mental training it is. I mean, it's funny because we're adding all this mental training supplementation everywhere. Everybody's selling mental training because we're taking it out of sport. We're not letting kids get the mental training of a tryout we just talked about. Yeah. It's like such a fundamental thing, the fear of not making it.
And isn't that like baseline? Foamy?
Fear of not... fawn me? Well, that sounds dirty.
Wow, fear of
not making it. Fawn me. I don't know. That sounds weird. Fawn me. Anyway, what were you saying?
I was going to compare it to like the military and stuff like that. Like I'm sure the military, there's tryouts. Like I'm sure anyone can.
You think so?
Well, the infantry, but then like to be
elite. Well, you think so?
I don't know. I hope so. I would think so. Like
we don't want to get political.
Yeah, I actually don't know anything about that, but
these days I think it's a little different. But
like tryout, like let's talk about like being high up in a corporation or something like that.
Business and sports used to be the 2 areas that were just pure meritocracies. Yeah, all based on either you have it or you don't. Business is still like that. Business you can't fake. Yeah, right. You can't fake business and succeed. You got to do it, and you might get away with it for a while, but then it'll come crashing down.
Yeah, and that's exactly like these are the last. Meritocracies.
Yeah, we're losing it in sport. This is like one more thing that's taking away the whole merit-based.
And it can't if it disappears in business, it can't because then economies literally go under. Yeah. So that's why it can't ever happen there.
Well, and it can't ever happen because just you can't lie, you can't fake it to the customer right? You can't like you can virtue signal and you can pretend that you're this or that, but at the end of the day, if your product sucks, your product sucks, or your service sucks, or your service sucks, and the customer's gonna be like, I don't like you, I don't like this. But
or you just don't have a product like, was it Theranos? Was it the Holmes thing?
Well, see, this is interesting.
Crazy.
It's funny that this came up. I know we are dragging this on, but this is very interesting that this came up because, business people, there's a rift in the business world, right? There's the customer, there's the businesses that built their business through sales and customers and building up, great reputations. And now the new business, what are the young business people doing? They're doing fundraising.
Ideas.
I fundraise.
Yeah.
My company's valued at $4 million or $100 million. Why? Because we got investors in it at that rate. So you haven't sold a single damn thing to a customer that's been happy, but you are just looking for assurances. So they think they're great business people, all these young Silicon Valley, these corporations that are collapsing without having selling and delivering one thing to a customer who's paid for it. And yet they think their company's built so much, and everybody's just gambling. They're just gambling, right? The investors are just, I'm going to put in some money because I trust it, like the Theranos story. If anybody does, Google Theranos if you don't know it. It's a great story about a CEO who just everybody was impressed with, and they fell for the story, and she ended up having nothing. And it was all based on lies and all this value. Yeah. People still got rich off it, by the way.
Really?
Oh, of course, because if you invested in Theranos and sold before they found out the truth, then you got gazillions of dollars, millions of dollars. So that's how that works. But it's interesting how it ties in. Our culture is sort of doing this, but I think sport is one place that we should protect as a real merit-based thing and a real struggle.
We should have pointed that out earlier in the episode when people were still listening. But
I'm listening.
That is one of the things that is attacking. What makes sport a meritocracy? So if we're losing that, then its integrity is dropping.
Yeah, and nothing breaks my heart more. So
it can't be overstated.
Was it me who said that? Or, no, I think that nothing breaks my heart more than honestly watching a gym. Nothing. You go into a gym and you see a phenomenal athlete. Okay, and that player will not get an offer on that team because there's no spots left.
I would walk into these gyms and just watch and turn, and I don't know how to react. I'm just so what's a good word?
Flabbergasted?
Befuddled. Yeah, I don't know. Hands go up in the air. What do you do?
Or you signed all your middles, or you signed all your setters, and then there's a phenomenal setter showing up. Yeah. I saw that in the gym. There's a phenomenal setter walked into the gym, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to play outside?" Why? Because you signed all your crappy setters. Honestly, I was one of the best setters I've seen. 17-year-old setter, and she was just holy movement, hands up. I guess didn't like her team, but the team had already. They only had two outside.
We gotta make some spoof videos. Actually, find some nasty young athletes and go to tryouts at teams where we know do this. And just let them try.
Hey, did you make it? Did you make it? No. Why not? They said they had everybody.
Yeah.
Were you serious about coming to this club? Absolutely.
Oh man.
What did the coach say? Nothing. He didn't even talk to me.
Didn't even talk to me. Yeah.
It's brutal.
Wouldn't look me in the eyes.
I don't even know. I don't know. I said, if the insecurity is that deep, they're just happy. They got their team. Yeah. They got another year of coaching, another year of whatever, being the authority figure. Anyway, all right, we'll put this one to bed. I think that was a good show. We got a little over an hour. Cool. Hour and 7 minutes. Not bad. Yeah. All right, guys. So thanks again for listening. As always, don't forget to, if you're still listening, don't forget you may as well subscribe. I mean, it's free.
Yeah, you may as well. Yeah.
And follow us on Instagram. And by the way, I think we got a few more Instagram followers after I was making those.
Oh, really?
Nah, maybe.
Oh.
I mean, we did. I don't know what caused it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to think it was because me begging online.
You were manifesting it.
I was manifesting. I wrote it on a piece of paper and I put it in my pocket. And then it happened. I didn't have to do anything. All right, guys. See you next week.
Take care.
Thank you.
What's the big idea?